Welcome to Pack Talk Podcast, episode 109. Today we're going to be talking about, is the dog the alpha, the dominance theory? Is it debunked? Is it a myth? What is it? What is it? You know, we get a lot of comments on social media talking about the alpha theory, talking about the dominance theory in response to some of the training that we're showing on social media, which, remember, that training is just a clip in time of a dog's training. All right, but today we just want to look at the background of this, look into it a little bit, have a discussion. So first of all, I'll just go off by explaining what the technical alpha theory is. And the alpha theory is the theory that your dog is trying to dominate you when it's jumping, when it's pulling on the leash, when it's barking at you, and that you need to show your dog you are the alpha. That's the classic alpha theory. And so the approach to canine social behavior, known as dominance theory, alpha theory, originated in the 1930s and 1940s. There was a Swiss animal behaviorist that was observing captive wolves in a zoo. And so the scientists concluded that wolves in a pack fight to gain dominance, and the winner is the alpha wolf. And so this has been, over time, extrapolated and, used for domestic dog training. Constantly postulated that wolves are in constant competition for higher rank, dogs are in constant competition for higher rank, and that only the most aggressive dog or wolf ends up being the alpha male or female that holds all contenders in check in the wolf pack. Okay, so that's kind of the alpha dominance theory background. Also, this theory gave birth to many old school training techniques. And in these old school techniques, it was believed that the trainer or the handler must induce pain or heavy correction on a dog in order to show the dog who the alpha is. And now, since that time, we've had many advancements in behavioral science, psychology. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to review a systematic review from the Canine Science Collaboratory about dominance and hierarchy in domesticated dogs. So we're going to deep dive into this just a little bit today. All right, I got Chris with me, I got Ben with me. Before we jump into this real quick, just understand that a systematic review is just a scholarly review of evidence. So we have a scholar and they review evidence, they put it into a paper, they basically write up a paper with their conclusions. And this is from the Canine Science Collaboratory. So what we're going to do is we're going to review their paper and give our feedback based on our experience, right? Because I know Chris and I have trained many, many dogs, so we see dog behavior in the domesticated world, pet dogs in their homes primarily, and then we have Ben, who's been recording video for many years, and so he's seen this firsthand as well, not actually doing the training with us, but recording us, right? I mean, if we threw a dog at Ben, I'm sure he could train it. What do you think, Ben?
I train my own puppy.
Well, you train your own puppies. But
hello.
If we threw Hank at you,
That's some of the first footage he got.
That was his first.
That
was his first footage.
Or trying to bite my camera.
Yeah.
When we went to pick him up and then
yoking me through the doorway.
Pulling Chris's ass out of the door.
So, anyway, this paper is called The Indispensable Dog. You can look it up on Google if you want to read it for yourself. We're just going to go through some highlights on this paper. We're not going to read the whole thing. All right. So first of all, it starts out by saying, dogs' remarkable success in living in a human-dominated world rests on a set of adaptations to cohabitation with humans. In this paper, I reviewed the nature of these adaptations. They include changes in reproductive and foraging behavior from their ancestor species, wolves, which can be understood as adaptations to the change from hunting live prey to feeding on human food residues. Dogs also show changes in social behavior, which are more controversial. So we'll just stop right there real quick. We know that wolves are the dog's ancestors. Okay, we've discussed that before on the podcast. Over time, obviously, wolves became dogs, right? And then dog breeds were modified to create all of the breeds that we have today. Those breeds usually starting off for some kind of purpose, right? Whether that be protection, guardian livestock protection, cattle dogs, all these types of things. Chihuahuas, good to go. Shih Tzus are actually, like, if I remember correctly, maybe you can correct me, Chris, if I don't have it correct, but they were with sailors and they were traded or they were on ships. Do you remember the Shih Tzu specifically?
No.
Anyway, several years ago, me and Chris reviewed a whole book of all the different breeds that reviewed their history and their background and all that. So every breed started out for a specific purpose, but as the human world changed and modified and developed, dogs in general stopped fulfilling those purposes that they were bred for and became pet dogs, right? And that can come with behavioral consequences or further adaptation, because we know that living organisms, living beings, will adapt, will evolve to what's going on around them, right? That could be the climate. So you have a dog that's a thick-coated dog in a cold climate is moved to a warmer climate. Their coat over time may adapt or evolve to be a thinner coat for that warmer climate. That's just one example, right? You got dogs that are used to living in the city, right? They got a small backyard, whatever. They move out to the country. Now they got more room to range and explore, and they might not be used to that, and so they kind of get out of eyesight of the owner. The owner takes a nap. The dogs are further getting.
Are you describing your life?
No.
Okay.
I'm talking about what just happened down here. What just happened with my neighbor.
Describing my life. My life. Those are my dogs.
But anyway, so like dogs evolve, they adapt over time. You know what I'm saying? So
physicality too, like think about taking a dog, keeping it stationary, couch potato lifestyle. Those dogs breed, they get less active versus a dog that's go all the time. Those dogs are breeding down the line, they get more active, right? So physical traits and things like that as well.
Same thing with people, too. But if you have a dog that is now more of a couch potato dog than a working dog, that dog could be more prone to injuries because their body is not, it's adapting to be more of a couch potato dog than an active dog.
Right.
So there could be some injury risk there as well. There's a lot of different factors. So anyway, we know that over time, organisms do adapt, whether that's a dog, whether it's a human, whether it's a plant, right? These kind of things. Continuing on here in the paper, contrary to theories of canine domestication, which view dogs as less aggressive and more cooperative than wolves, several studies show that dogs' social interactions with conspecifics are more hierarchical and competitive than our wolves. So we'll just stop right there. First of all, a conspecific is the same species.
So dog on dog.
Right, dog on dog, wolf on wolf, human on human. Right, so he's saying right here, just in his intro, that, there's theories that dogs are less aggressive, less competitive than wolves. But he's saying that after his review of these studies, which he references all of them at the back of his paper, that in actuality, it seems that dogs are more aggressive, more competitive. See what I'm saying? Continuing on, he says, as scavengers rather than hunters, dogs do not need to cooperate with conspecifics the way that wolves do. But how then can we understand dogs' willingness to cooperate with humans? I propose an integrated account of dogs' social behavior that does not assume that dogs need to recognize the species identity of the individuals with whom they interact. Because of the overlap in formal signals of dominance and submission between dog and human, and people's complete control over the resources dogs need, I propose that people occupy a status of superdominance over dogs. So that's just his proposal, his theory here. But I just want to back it up. He went into it real briefly, which we'll talk in detail here about in a second. But wolves, you think about a wolf pack. They're out there hunting. They have to find prey. They have to move. These types of things. Dogs don't have to do that. Dogs are just existing with us. You see what I'm saying? So that would make sense because a wolf needs to cooperate more with other wolves in order to survive, achieve things they need to achieve, whereas a dog just needs to, basically coexist with the human. The human gives it its food. It doesn't have to go out and hunt it. These types of things. So that's just my initial thoughts on the introduction here.
Well, it makes sense. Like if you look at something like resource guarding, which you can see in both wolves and dogs,
Mm-hmm.
the intensity might be different. And like based on what he's saying, you might see it be more intense of a thing in the dog world than in the wolf world.
Mm-hmm.
We've all seen videos of the wolves when they're over their kill or whatever, and that we'll say subordinate member of the pack comes up to a higher ranking member, and that wolf snarls.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there's no damage caused, right? You might see more in the dog world. You might see more damage caused.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They don't have to work together. Those two dogs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They're used to just, hey, this food is in a limited it's a limited resource. I don't get a full carcass to dine on. I just get a little bit of food, and when it comes, I better get it in, right? So like it's just a different kind of mindset that they're operating under.
Well, also the wolves and dogs in general, they would want to use the least amount of force required,
right,
to make sure that they have control of a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the food scenario, a wolf
Yeah.
snarls, it gives that signal. The other wolf reads and interprets that signal. It goes ahead and backs off.
Right.
The dog, maybe it snarls. The other dog doesn't interpret that signal because it hasn't cooperated with dogs before. It doesn't need to. Misinterprets in signals, or the competing motivator of wanting the food overrides the cue from the other dog to back off.
Right.
And now that dog that snarled over the food is now going after the dog that's getting closer to them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you've got that in effect as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, wolves have to cooperate, so they have to have this communication locked down. Dogs don't have to cooperate when they're left to their, just the way they are.
Well, it's not beneficial to the wolf to really mess up that,
Right.
to incapacitate that pack member.
Right.
Because now the next hunt's going to be harder.
Right.
That's just not a relevant thing for the dogs.
Right.
Right.
Right, exactly. The dog doesn't need the other dog.
Right.
Right. They might enjoy each other. They might enjoy social interactions, playing or whatever together, but they don't have to have each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
All right, continuing on here, he said that dogs are by any measure exceptional beings. They are the most widespread large mammal after humans on this planet. The total world population of dogs is estimated to be around 800 million individuals.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
People have multiple dogs if you're just like in your own country. But if you ever travel, you see dogs wherever you're going too.
Yeah.
Dogs live alongside people in a high state of intimacy. Over 50% of adult women respondents to a survey in the United States reported that they let their dogs sleep on their beds with them. Okay, and it's not just women doing that, a bunch of dudes doing that too.
Maybe some dudes at this table.
Then you got a bunch of people that won't let dogs sleep with them, right? But over 50% will, is what he's saying. And then if you think about the way that humans have evolved, humans have adapted, human civilization is adapting. In countries where you have social media, you have a lot of internet access. People are not socially interacting the way they used to.
Mm-hmm.
So people are actually, at least from my observations, less people are actually dating. There are less people getting in. Well, they might be dating, but less people are getting into serious relationships. But people still want that intimacy of sleeping with somebody or sleeping with something. So what they do, they get a dog. They sleep with the dog instead of having a serious relationship with another human.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now you got that companionship of sleeping with somebody or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right. Clearly, the remarkable success of dogs is due in some sense to their adaptation to human proximity. And he says that dogs are human symbiotes. So basically a symbiote?
Sure.
Symbiotic relationship is one where you're together. So if
mutually beneficial
right.
from each other.
If like, is it Marvel Universe? You got Venom, the Spider-Man, he's a villain, right? Anti-hero, right? Because sometimes he does things that are beneficial. But he's got the alien symbiote. They coexist. They support each other. They help each other, right? So he's saying that dogs are like human symbiotes. So we live together. We support each other, which I would say is accurate based on my observations of pet dogs and the way that people are with their dogs, right? Dogs need us, and in part we need them. I mean, you don't get a dog. Some people get a dog just to save a dog, save a dog from the shelter or whatever.
But that alone, that can be the benefit.
Right.
Like,
They want to feel good.
that makes me feel good.
like I'm doing something, so
Right.
now I'm getting that benefit from the dog.
Right.
Right. And then they get another one. Then they get another one. Then they get another.
Then
you
it
know
gets
what
out
I'm
of
saying?
hand. Then it gets crazy.
But they're feeding the dogs. They're taking care of them, at least to a certain degree. Because if you start collecting a bunch of dogs, then you really can't be walking that each dog as much as they need to be walked. You can't be training them as much as they need to be trained. So at a certain point, you're actually reducing what you're providing to that dog other than just shelter and food.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? All right, moving on. He says, that is to say, dogs are found living close by humans and dependent on food sources they obtain from humans. In the first world, this provisioning is mostly intentional. In the developing world, the provisioning is more often unintentional, as when dogs scavenge on human refuse, basically things that humans aren't using. Dogs scavenge on it in the developing world, countries that are struggling, right? Few dogs survive entirely by hunting live prey, and there is no evidence of populations of dogs that are self-sustaining entirely by this method of foraging, except for dingoes. He does mention that dingoes can do that. So if you think about it, you think about a lot of pet dogs. Sure, they have prey drive. Sure, they chase things and bite things. But is it enough to chase it, get it, eat it? I mean, I know some dogs will do that, like with squirrels. Some dogs, they chase it, they bite it, they kill it, they leave it there. Because they've satisfied that prey drive at that point. See what I'm saying? The importance of adapting to human proximity may be central to a dog's success in the human-dominated world, but the essence of that successful adaptation remains a topic of continuing debate and controversy in the literature. So everything that he's reviewing, there are still some controversies and debates. But going back to food sources, we know the optimal diet for the dog. Raw diet, right? Raw diet. But we're giving them human refuse. We're giving them kibble with that byproduct. So actually we're not helping them.
No.
We're not helping them unless we're getting them the food they need.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? All right, moving on. We're talking about reproductive behavior now, the differences. So he says that wolves form pair bonds which can be lifelong. They do not become reproductively active before the second year of life. They also have a rigid breeding season and produce no more than 1 litter of pups per year. Did you know that, Ben? Ben's over here. He's getting shocked by the knowledge.
I didn't know that.
Which he'll explain why in a second. Dogs are already reproductively active in their first year of life. We know that. We get a puppy, it's getting that heat cycle coming on, right, within that first year. Wolves don't see it till their second year. Crazy, huh? Female dogs may show preferences for certain mates and are not technically promiscuous, but they usually have multiple mating partners. That's probably due to human intervention. That's my belief, because we've wanted to breed dogs. So now we get different studs, to different females. And so dogs lose that genetic makeup they have of that lifelong pair bond. So we know that wolves have pair bonds that are lifelong. I assume if one wolf dies, they'll get another mate sometimes. You know what other animal has a lifelong pair bond you might not know about? You don't know?
Humans?
The guinea.
Guinea fowl. Ben knows. Guinea
That was a
fowl.
guess. It was just a guess.
All right, moving on. In general, dog fathers do not contribute to the support of their mates or offspring. So we know that wolves, they support each other in raising the offspring, and dogs, not the case. If you're going to a breeder to get a dog, usually the father's not even around. But there are cases of fathers that are helping with dogs, raising dogs. Like my Doberman Bane, when I went to the breeder to visit him when he was a puppy growing up, the mom was there, but the father was around sometimes hanging out with the puppies. But his Bane's grandfather was the one that was actually more involved with the puppies, because the father was a stud dog from somewhere else. So it wasn't like the breeder's dog, but the grandfather was her dog. So the grandfather was around the puppies a lot. And I remember very vividly, all the puppies were, chasing him. They were biting his ankles, biting him. And at a certain point, he had enough. So he basically snarled at them, and they all ran away. And he's teaching them, teaching them boundaries, that kind of stuff. Or in one case, there was a couple that were chasing him, and he just walked outside of their brooding pen or their breeding pen and they couldn't get to him anymore. So he just removed himself from the scenario, you know. And I think that one lived to be like 16 years old or something.
The grandfather?
Yeah.
Dang.
That's old. All right. Unlike in wolves, male dogs are continuously reproductively active, which means they're just constantly
ready to go.
Constantly getting after it, which is again due to human intervention, constantly trying to breed dogs.
Yeah.
Trying to make money. Generally, that's why they're being bred, you know.
I think I remember reading as well, litter size is much larger in the dogs than the wolves.
I would assume so.
I think they typically have smaller litters. The wolves do.
Wolves have smaller litters.
Yeah.
They don't need that many.
Right.
All right, moving on. Both wolf parents collaborate to raise their pups which may not leave their parents' family group until the second year of life. So the wolves are sticking around longer. We know if a female dog has puppies, generally 8 weeks or so, those puppies are going away, right? They're not going to be around the mother anymore. So that's interesting, just some highlights on the reproductive behavior. So there's major differences, The wolf, like the guinea fowl, pair bond for life. Dogs, not the case. Also, dogs are reproductively active in their first year of life. Wolves are reproductively active after their second year. But also, which I think I highlighted later in here, wolves are reproductively active based on the availability of prey. So they're not going to be reproducing when it's wintertime. There's no prey available because they got to feed puppies at that point. Also, the father is going to come back and regurgitate food for the puppies. That doesn't happen in a dog scenario, right? So a little bit of differences there. All right, moving on. Foraging. Wolves survive by hunting live prey, which is larger than they are and highly motivated not to become a wolf's dinner. This can only be achieved by a close-knit group of individuals who have undergone a form of apprenticeship which can take from 1 to 3 years. So it seems like, based on the studies that this guy reviewed, wolves have some type of training process that takes 1 to 3 years to train the upcoming wolves how to hunt and take down prey, which that's pretty cool to think about.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
We talked about the documentary before, The Kingdom of the White Wolf. I think that's in there. They had a litter that's growing up, and they get like teenagers. They actually go, like it's almost like they're shadowing the hunts. Like they're hanging out. They're not hunting, but they're in the outskirts kind of watching the older wolves hunt, which is kind of a cool thing.
Super cool. Hunting for wolves is so complex that they tend to specialize on a subset of available prey species and interbreed preferentially among conspecifics who focus on the same prey species. What that basically means is that wolves in different locations, they tend to specialize in taking down a certain prey animal. That could be an elk, it could be bison, things like that, right? He does say that wolf hunting success is dependent on group membership. For easier to kill prey such as elk, hunting reaches an optimum for groups of 2 to 6 wolves. So for groups of wolves that are hunting elk, 2 to 6 is the ideal group that's hunting. For bison, which are far more challenging prey, capture success only levels off at groups of 9 to 13 individuals. So more wolves are needed for bison, which is obviously a larger prey animal.
It's a beast of an animal.
Lots of meat right there. High risk of injury to the wolf if not done properly, which you see these videos nowadays, like the Nature is Metal. They tend to pick off they're not going after the strongest animal in the herd. They're going after a weaker animal in the herd, easier to take down, right? Or they try to get a baby off to the side. They take down that young bison or whatever, which is interesting how they do that, because when they're coming up with their strategy, they basically are kind of herding the buffalo a certain way. Then they kind of use 1 or 2 wolves to cut off 1 or 2 buffalo or that baby buffalo so that it can't be rejoining the herd. They get it far enough away, now they can get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Until that mama buffalo turns around, charges them. Now we're in trouble.
The fight's on.
Right. That's crazy. All right. The primary form of foraging for dogs is scavenging. The majority of the world's dogs subsist on food remains discarded by humans. And even pet dogs fed directly by people are still technically scavenging insofar as the food given them is primarily either surplus to the human's requirements or manufactured from animal byproducts, which are portions of meat animals that people prefer not to eat. So whether you're feeding a dog out of a bowl or whether there's a dog living in the woods, both of those dogs are going to be scavenging mainly. They'll be eating dead carcasses, right? They're generally not going to be hunting and taking down prey like the wolves are. So,
speaking of, I just saw that black pitty doing this just the other day. He was eating some trash out of the ditch. He's a scavenger.
Yeah. Close to where we have Canine Revolution dog training at for the listener, there's this black pitty. He's been living in the woods for a while. You can't get close to him because he'll run off, but he is a scavenger. You'll see him on the side of the road eating things that are on the side of the road.
Pizza boxes.
Yeah, trash or dead animals.
Dead animals.
Dead animals for sure.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh? All right. Interestingly enough, he was very specific about putting dogs are being fed food that portions of animals that people don't want to eat. Again.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
garbage.
Humans feeding their dogs garbage. Right, we got to get them on the right diet, that raw diet. Moving on. Dogs are not typically successful hunters, and there are few populations of dogs which survive and maintain numbers entirely by hunting. The scavenging niche does not require the complex skill set that hunting live prey demands. It hardly needs noting that extracting and consuming the remnants of already deceased and butchered prey is a far simpler process and does not usually benefit from the coordinated action of a group of closely attached individuals. Indeed, the presence of conspecifics leads to competition in free-ranging dogs, and they prefer to forage solitarily outside of mating season. So what he's saying is dogs that are out living in the wild, they're foraging, they're scavenging, they're finding things. They don't need a group. They don't need a pack to help them scavenge, right? So they're usually living by themselves or solitary, and that there's competition. So if you got a dog that's eating something on the side of the road, another dog wanders up, that could be a fighting scenario, right? I'm not going to share this scenario. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I know in pet dogs, they have a problem from human intervention. They'll keep eating.
Oh, yeah.
They'll just keep eating, unconsciously, because especially if they have a competitor close by, they're just concerned about consuming everything so they don't have to give, so the competitor doesn't have anything.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? If the competitor gets closer, they snarl at them, whatever. So we've kind of, in human intervention, we've created the dog that does not have a signal biofeedback system that tells it when it's full to stop eating.
Right.
It just consumes so much because we got the competition right here.
Yep. You think in the wolves, we've seen this in the documentaries, they make that kill and they eat, but they have a territory that's typically not going to be invaded by another pack. Everybody stays to their own until there's disputes or whatever. So they leave that carcass there and they're feeding on it for several days. They're coming back. Could be a mile or two that their den is. They come back, they eat, right? Dog world doesn't apply. You leave that carcass or whatever the thing that you found, ain't no guarantees can be there an hour later, right? So it's a little bit of a different mindset.
And it's worse with pet dogs in your house. You got food out. Most dogs are just going to constantly eat.
Yeah.
Now, you do have those grazer dogs that don't eat a lot, but that's usually a behavioral problem.
Sure.
But, kind of reminds me of Chris with his Skittles. Chris is...
The grazing?
Chris,
or the other side of things.
Happens to stop by a gas station, gets a big bag of Skittles, takes it home. His kids, they want some Skittles, so now he's got that competition. He's
down.
Eating as many Skittles as possible so that his kids can't have any.
Well, you got to do that on the car ride home before you get home. You don't let the kids see the Skittles.
Exactly.
See what
so
I'm saying?
The competition, just knowing what's there.
Yeah.
The competition's coming. You're going ahead and knocking it out.
Exactly. So now we know where the dogs get it from. The humans.
Yep. Exactly. Because that's been happening for years.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years, humans don't want to share with other humans.
Right.
They want to eat what they want to eat.
Yep. Yeah.
So then the dog's like, oh, I see what's going on here. So they start doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the same apply. You think we as a species, we're taking down woolly mammoths together.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We were hunting. We were very good hunting.
Yeah.
Now look at today. Hunting's still a thing, but I would say
then.
most people don't hunt for their food. and probably couldn't.
Right.
You know, if they had to. You know
the
what I'm
hunting
saying?
today is a lot different than the woolly mammoth hunting, because today
Sure.
It's like a sport. It's a sport.
you sit in a tree stand,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you bait your deer to where
Right.
you're going to be hunting, and then you hunt them, or you study the area, you know where they're moving, you go to where they're moving at, you be there when they're moving through the area. Back then in woolly mammoth, of course, you're having to probably study the landscape, know their patterns, know what's going on. But now the chase is on.
You're doing similar things the wolves are doing to
Right.
the bison and everything, right?
You
You
got
know, you got to be
spears.
tactical. You got to be, you know. So I mean, it's very interesting the way that the dog moves away from some of those traits of the wolves. It's like it's literally tied to
done
the
the
way
same
the humans are moving. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure we've evolved or adapted from our early ancestors.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I'm not saying that they were apes or anything, but
No.
like I'm sure they were a lot hairier.
Yeah.
You know, because they're living in like.
I mean, they're outside.
They might be in a cold climate, maybe not.
Right.
You know, who knows where they were at? But like, you know, they might have more
Well,
body hair.
you have way more exposure to the elements.
Or females.
It would make sense. You have more
Armpit hair.
coverage. Yeah.
You know,
Well, you ain't
armpit
got no
hair.
big razors. You know what I'm saying?
They got some beards back in the
Yeah.
day.
Hairy
Yeah.
legs.
Hairy legs.
Extremely hairy legs.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see that they're cloning the mammoth, though?
Are you serious?
You didn't hear about it?
No.
Yeah, they're cloning it.
Elon Musk?
No, it's like a group of scientists. They got
This doesn't sound like Jurassic Park
they
at all.
found like
This could be this will work out well.
frozen remains or
I
DNA
did see that
sample
they found
of a mammoth, woolly mammoth,
Mm-hmm.
and
Pretty
they're
well
like,
preserved.
we're gonna bring
Oh,
it back.
I
We're
didn't
gonna
see they were
clone
gonna
it.
clone it.
Oh,
So hey, soon we might be able to hunt them.
dang.
You know what I'm saying?
What,
Soon
what if
they-
they had like a park and you had the hunting experience?
Like Westworld.
Well,
going-
that's the
Yeah.
problem. Now you bring back this animal
Right.
that's a beast.
it's
We don't know how to
extinct-
hunt that
It's
thing.
extinct for a reason.
This is
Right.
legit Jurassic Park, bro.
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
We
Is,
might go back to the old times.
Hey,
If they bring the mammoth back, everything resets. You know, like
Mhm.
That
the
might be kind of cool.
World War
actually.
III happens, everything's wiped out.
Only the
The
strong
mammoth is
survive.
still alive somehow. we are literally back in the ice age. Except it's not ice; it's like global warming, so it's
Right,
like the
right.
hot age.
So, we
time
get,
does it have a way of resetting itself? So.
so you know, back. At least we're just hypothesizing here, but back then humans had more hair on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the new apocalypse, in the new apocalyptic world, humans have less hair. 'cause
Everyone's
it's global
bald.
warming,
Yeah,
and you only wear loincloths.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I think that was also maybe
That was
back
probably
in
a
the day.
thing.
Oh yeah.
That was the thing.
Oh yeah. Interesting to think about.
We went down a
That's a
rabbit hole.
typical.
We got
I
off.
mean, you know, it's got to be discussed though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got to be discussed.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, you know, if you're a pack of humans and you're hunting a woolly mammoth, I mean, you're talking about you need physical stamina, you need
Oh, yeah.
physical endurance, you need strategy, you need
Cooperation.
cooperation,
Boom.
right? And that means that there is a hierarchy in that group too,
Yeah.
you know. All right, moving on here. Wolves need to reproduce seasonally because their prey shows seasonal availability. Dogs do not typically need to constrain themselves to only reproduce at certain times of the year because the availability of their diet usually varies little by season. Wolves need to form pair bonds and keep their young with them to ensure their survival during the early months of life, and then to apprentice them in the complex task of hunting large live prey. Their assistance is important in the success of the hunt. Dogs, on the other hand, can forego pair bonding because their young require little training. Around 8 weeks of age, pups start following their mother to food sources and may also beg for food from people. No further parental support is offered. So again, just kind of reiterating what we've already talked about, the differences there, why there's differences. And again, everything adapts as time goes on, right? Everything's constantly changing. So the woolly mammoth, you know, going back to the woolly mammoth, changed into the elephant, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what we believe.
Right.
Woolly mammoth became the elephant. And if I'm not mistaken, the woolly mammoth was much bigger.
Oh yeah.
Elephant reduced in size,
Mm-hmm.
but still a formidable foe, because there was a video on Nature is Metal page recently of an elephant flipping over a safari van in Africa because the van got too close to the mother and the babies.
Yeah.
So the bull elephant went over there, threw this thing over.
Still insane power.
They do what they got to do, you know. All right, moving on. Social behavior. Both reproductive and foraging behavior include interaction with others and thus are forms of social behavior. Conspecific behavior. The behavior of dogs towards others of their species does not consistently indicate strong within species bonds. I mean, what do you think about that statement? He's saying that the behavior of dogs towards other dogs does not indicate strong within-species bonds.
I mean,
don't have to have bonds like wolves do.
Right. I think he's just saying, along everything he's been saying, is like the wolves have to have these bonds. The dogs don't have to have these bonds. In fact, my interpretation of a lot of what he says in this article is that you see that bond more so with dogs and humans than you do dogs and dogs,
right.
or dogs and wolves or whatever.
Well, I think later on in this paper he describes how training the humans, again, human intervention in the development of the dog, now human intervention training dogs to have within species bonds.
Yeah.
But if dogs were left to their wits, that would not be occurring.
Sure.
It's occurring because humans are intervening and having dogs create bonds among themselves.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Do you have a thought, Ben? You have a thought?
No, I was just thinking, like we force our dogs to stay in our houses.
Right.
And if they had the option, they probably would just not stick around.
Maybe
Maybe
I don't
not.
know. It
I mean,
depends.
some dogs, maybe they stay. Some dogs, like if it was Joe, my dog, like she would probably wander off maybe for a couple days and come back or something, you know? But
Maybe.
I think it would just depend. Like, what
Yeah.
are we talking? We taking an 8-week pup,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
just let it do its thing. What happens? I don't know.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That 8-week pup still needs.
That 8-week pup will probably die if it just
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
off
yeah.
by itself.
Right.
Plus, they're conditioned to, at that point, they're conditioned to the interactions with their litter mates, their mother, and then whatever humans they have contact with, you know. But I think if you were to take your dog, JoJo, right now and just let her do whatever, she'd probably stick
Now
to
she would stick around because it's been
Right.
like
Well, you've got the
7
training,
years since
too.
I've had her,
Well,
you know,
it's-
and
it's
she's used to our
conditioning.
lifestyle. She knows I provide the food.
Right.
But if you take, like, let's say you take a litter of puppies,
Mm-hmm.
let's say it's like 6 dogs.
Yeah.
6 puppies plus the mom, whatever. You just let them fully grow up and live amongst each other. Like, do they form bonds between each other, or just, you know?
I mean, that would
I'm
be.
just
Probably
I'm
depends on all
brainstorming
of
here.
it probably depends on all of the factors that are in that
Yeah.
experiment.
Yeah.
You know, where the food is, the availability of food. You know, of course,
Right.
dogs are social beings. You know, the wolf is a social pack animal. The dog has that genetic foundation. So it is a social being. I'm sure it would appreciate or enjoy some social interaction, but it doesn't want social interaction or doesn't need social interaction at the level the wolf needs in order to survive. You know what I'm saying? If you took those 6 puppies and you just let them out into like let's say you had a 10-acre place, you fenced it off, and you just let them go. Let's see what happens. There's the ability for other animals to come and go from that 10 acres, but the puppies cannot leave. The puppies are going to be scavenging for food. They're not going to be hunting food. You know, they see a dead bird that died and fell down, they'll probably just eat it. You know what I'm saying?
But then
As
you're
they
also
get hungry.
you're having circumstances now for these puppies turning on each other, right?
Right.
Because there's no need to work together still.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, maybe they're not going to bond. I don't know.
Yeah.
They might play, but then whenever it comes down to food, they might fight.
Right.
It just there's too many factors.
Yeah.
To know.
Yeah, so all that just, it's all about the hunt. If they're actively hunting
Well, you
together,
think about
then
what
that's
the dog
bond.
needs,
That's
what
the
the wolf
bonding
needs.
process.
It's for the wolf.
yeah.
Because the wolf apprenticeship process to become an effective strategic hunter. You know, that's a
Yeah.
training process that
Right.
the wolf undertakes with their young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs don't have that. You know.
So then in food and resource guarding, you know, the reason that maybe someone's dog is bucking up to them is that instinct in them to, this is my food, you know, like this is the only food I got.
Could be the resource
I know
guarding
I know it's
is
multiple.
probably a human created problem.
Well, it definitely is.
You know, but it's probably that you know, that human gets the puppy. Now the puppy's just doing whatever. The human's kind of letting the puppy run the show. You know, there's food available.
Yeah,
They put
yeah.
the food down.
Yeah.
There's no boundary or structure in place.
I mean, on a primal level, yeah, I think it can be. I mean, just under the right circumstances, bowl of food comes down, you could be perceived as competition for that food.
Right.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm
It's like
talking
on a primal
about.
level.
Yeah, primally.
Yeah, I like either you're going to take this or I'm going to take
I'm a
this.
scavenger.
Right.
I don't need you for this food.
Right.
I'm taking this food.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
getting close to me. You're sticking your hand in it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Your competition for
Yeah.
the food.
Right.
So now I'm going to produce behaviors to get you away from me.
Right.
And I'll escalate if I need to.
Right.
Right.
But that's depending on the dog.
Depending on the dog.
And this is like talking
Right.
prime.
Right,
This
we're
is like
talking
your
primal.
primal. Like there's no relationship. There's no
Yeah,
bonding. There's
yeah.
no training put in play. All that kind
Right,
of stuff
right.
is not like just primal instincts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
right.
think you're tracking.
Kind of confusing is what you're saying.
I mean, there's just multiple ways to look
A
at
lot
it.
of layers.
It's not
There's
a
layers.
Lot of layers.
one direct answer. There's
Right,
too
there's not a
many
direct
too many
answer.
factors to consider.
Right. That's the thing with dogs in general. There's not a correct answer for every situation.
right,
There's
right.
multiple ways, multiple answers, multiple
Yeah.
possibilities. Like we never really know what's going on in the dog's mind.
Mm-hmm.
All we're doing is making our most educated thought process based on the information that's available.
Right.
But we know from whatever point we have the dog with, we know there's a way to move forward, modify that dog's behavior so that it can coexist with whatever it's living with, whether that be other people, other dogs, other animals. You know, because you take a dog, for example, they're not going to hunt like a wolf, but they still have prey drive, right? So if you have to have that dog live with livestock, you know, you've got to condition that dog, train that dog, modify that dog's actions to be acceptable living around livestock or cats or whatever, you know. So that's a modification process. But if we're talking about the core,
Yeah.
you know, the core makeup, you know, that's what we're kind of discussing here. But up to this point, everything we're seeing doesn't mean that there needs to be high levels of aggression, high levels of this alpha theory applied to the dog, right? We're kind of looking at the background. We're looking at all the back story to the dog so that we can understand what do we need to do moving forward to help it modify behavior so that it can coexist in harmony with us, right? All right, moving on here. Let's see. It appears that the size of groups may depend on the availability of food. We're talking about groups of dogs that are free roaming. The breeding status of females in the season. So I believe it was in India. There was a group of dogs that were studied, and there was a couple of groups, but it seems like the size of the group depends on the availability of food. They're still scavenging, the breeding status of females, and the season. All right, moving on to hierarchical social organization. Hierarchical social structure is a common but not inevitable occurrence of living in social groups. Hierarchical social structure is common but not inevitable occurrence of living in social groups. The question of whether dogs live in hierarchical social groups with relatives of status for individuals which that implies has become controversial in recent years because of the misuse of the term dominance by certain particular dog trainers. These individuals use dominance as a cover for painful and regressive forms of animal training. All right, what do we think about that?
I think this is where the problems come when we talk about dominance theory, alpha theory, right? I think because we've had multiple people comment on our videos. Dominance doesn't exist. Dominance isn't a thing, right? And I think what happens is dominance you got this alpha theory that says you got to do things like alpha roll your dogs, pin them down. You got to use physical violence essentially, which is dominance. And so that now dominance becomes defined as violence or some type of aggression, right? And so then we start to say, oh, well, you don't actually need to have aggression, right? And then they say, well, so you don't need that, so then dominance isn't a thing. And so now all of a sudden now we're very confused as to what's going on in the world of dominance, or does it even exist?
Right.
Just because you don't dominance does not just mean aggression or violence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's tons of ways to assert dominance and not use aggression or violence. We as humans do it all the time. Dogs do as well. Wolves do as well. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where confusion gets, is people equate dominance to violence or aggression.
Yeah, they're equating dominance to the usage of the term, as we're saying here, the term has become controversial because of the dominance alpha theory.
Right.
That states that we have to use painful and regressive forms of training
Right.
to basically bend the dog to our will.
Right.
Right. That's what we're arguing here. But we know in actuality that dominance, that's not what dominance is.
Right.
But we do know that in social structures, whether that be a dog social structure, a human social structure, other animals that live in social groups, there is a dominant, submissive type of relationship.
Yeah.
Right? So we're getting the terms mixed up. But in these social groups, the dominant individual doesn't mean they're overpowering anybody or exerting pain or force on anybody. It means that they are essentially the leader of the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that the subordinates are the ones that are following that leader, that dominant individual. We also know that in certain circumstances, the dominant individual will display submissive traits to the subordinate individuals. So I know that can be confusing, but that's what we know from observation of social organizations. And now we have the pet dog living in the home with the family, right? It's not that the family or the human needs to dominate the dog, but we do need to be in that more dominant rank order.
Not that they need to dominate from the physical.
Right. We don't need to use the physicality to dominate.
Right. Like if you think about it, if I put a leash on a dog, I'm in a dominant role, in my opinion. I'm limiting what that dog can do. I'm controlling that dog.
If you do that, the dog can.
Right. I'm just as an example.
Drag the owner down the street.
Sure.
So now the owner would be the subordinate.
Right. My point, like let's say I bring a puppy in, the structure that I implement is dominance. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of trainers that say dominance is not a thing.
Right.
They are using dominance, whether they think they are or not. When I put a puppy in an X pen, when I keep my puppy in a kennel, when I put the dog on a leash to go for their potty breaks, when I control when they get access to food, these are all, in my opinion, I'm putting myself in a dominant role. This puppy is in a more submissive role.
You're putting yourself at the head of that social hierarchy.
Right.
Whether you want to use the term dominance or leadership or whatever. Right. You are the head of the social hierarchy. Your dog is at the is not at the head. It's a subordinate member of the social hierarchy.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully that was explained. Ben?
Yeah.
Was that explained in a way that could be understood?
Yeah.
But the controversy is that
need more.
You need more?
Need more
elaboration.
Need more information as we go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know the controversy is that the alpha dominance theory is saying that you have to use painful and regressive forms of training to bend the animal to your will. We are saying that you don't need to do that, but that dominance and subordinate relationships do exist in social organizations. Dog and human organization, dog and dog organization, human and cat organization, these types of things. Usually the cats are the dominant one. All right, moving on here. Dominance is simply the tendency for certain individuals in a social group to have at least partially consistent preferential access to limited resources such as shelter, food, and sexual partners. So he's defining dominance as the individual in a group that has consistent preferential access to the things that the group needs. So in the human-dog relationship, that's going to be food, that's going to be water, that's going to be time, these types of things.
I mean,
shelter.
My dog stays in a kennel, I sleep in a bed.
Right.
I got preferential treatment there. Right. No, they might come into bed. I'm not saying be careful now. I'm going to get attacked.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard before.
From your perspective, because you're like, this is the preferential treatment, but you condition your dog that the kennel is like where they're at.
Right, exactly.
They're just
second guessing it, right? They're thinking about it.
Right. So then they're just adhering to that because you've already established the fact that they're not getting the preferential access to like the bed, for example, from the time they were a puppy.
Which is fine for them.
Right, that's fine. That's fine. But the conditioning's taken place.
Yeah.
So now it's not even a thought process in their head.
Right.
Because like the theory states that the dog is constantly trying to challenge you at all times and that you constantly have to shut that down with pain or aversion, right? But we are saying that's not the case. The dog's not challenging you. You've conditioned the dog to its boundaries, how it operates within the social organization of your family or however you run things.
Right.
Right. Individuals with consistent access to constrained resources are known as dominant. Those that consistently have less access to resources are subordinate. Dominance hierarchies may form a consistent rank ordering. The concept of dominance includes the enforcement of preferential access by aggression and agnostic interactions. But ethologists now also recognize that social hierarchies are commonly maintained by signals of superior and inferior status known as formal dominance and subordination signals. So we'll stop right there real quick. The preferential access is enforced by aggression and agnostic interaction and maintained by signals of superior and inferior status. Okay, so when you think about your pet dog in your house with you, you know, how are you going to enforce your rules of the house? You know, because he's saying here, the enforcement is through aggression, agnostic interaction, and signaling, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So communication,
Yeah.
right? So we're just going to enforce the rules of the house by routine, right? Through conditioning. Doesn't mean you have to be aggressive with your dog. It's just kind of like a matter-of-fact thing. This is how things go, right? This is the routine of the house. That routine, that ritual, like we've talked about before, you know, on a recent podcast, is what helps communicate that rank order, right, in the house.
I think it's like the difference between aggressive and assertive, right? Like, hey, you're doing this thing. You know what I mean? That's like just like we do with our kids. Like, there's not an option here. You have to do whatever this behavior is. You're doing it, period, right? Like, me as the parent, I'm making that decision. Me as your handler, as your leader, we're making that decision. That doesn't mean we're getting aggressive.
Right.
Right?
We should not need to escalate unless absolutely required.
Right.
Right. We're always working to de-escalate.
Mm-hmm.
And those routines and rituals is just a matter of a fact thing.
Right.
Right. It's not that I'm trying to assert myself on you.
Right.
It's just like, this is how things operate. See what I'm saying? Groups of free-living dogs have been found to live in social hierarchies in several studies. Furthermore, grouped house dogs studied in the Netherlands were found to experience social hierarchies. They're talking about at a dog park and a daycare. Groups of dogs, they even form social hierarchies. Okay. 2 studies have identified formal dominant signals in groups of dogs. Studied owned dogs at a park. They found that even as playing dogs reversed many roles, including chasing and tackling, certain behaviors remained stable. These included mounting, muzzle biting, licking, suggesting they were a stable formal dominant status marker, which we know that mounting and muzzle grabbing is a dominant signal. Doesn't mean that you're dominant at all times. It's just a dominant signal. We know that lip licking is a subordinate signal in general, right? Studying a group of 16 dogs living in kennels with outdoor group play opportunities, 2 behavioral markers of formal dominance, high posture and muzzle bite. Several behaviors also functioned as formal markers of submission. Body tail wag, the body tail wagging, lowered posture, hunching over a little bit, mouth lick, lip licking, and pass under the head. So they take their head down underneath that of the other dog. These authors analyzed the dominant structure of the dog group and as a whole, using a scale developed in primate research, categorized social structure, right? So basically, they had groups of dogs in daycares, dog parks, and this 16 dogs that had outdoor areas. They're observing these social hierarchies take place, these signaling. We're not fighting, but the signals are indicating dominant, subordinate relationships are occurring. But no aggression is needed to maintain the relationship because we're signaling, right? Now, I'm sure at a certain point, there's 2 dogs that are challenging each other. One throws a dominant signal. The other one decides, you know what, I'm not subordinate. So then there might be a little bit of aggression displayed, but it's not to necessarily induce extreme pain or anything. It's just to resolve that conflict as quickly as possible, right?
I mean, you also have, I think we talked about it in this podcast earlier maybe, but like, let's just say you take a dog that doesn't have socialization or doesn't have any, like, they could be confused on signals. They don't understand signals. They don't know how to read different signals. You know what I mean? That can cause conflict or confusion as well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And that's something that you have to modify in that dog if it's going to live with other dogs or with people or walk through a neighborhood with other dogs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The controversy over dominance in dogs is puzzling. And so, insofar as it has been known for many years that similarly raised groups of dogs show higher rates of conspecific aggression and competition than wolves. So he's saying that similar groups of dogs that are raised show higher rates of conspecific aggression and competition than wolves. So
dog on dog aggression is higher than wolf on wolf aggression. Is that, am I understanding that right?
Yeah. But that also kind of made me think of that littermate syndrome scenario where it occurs with some litters. Littermate syndrome occurs with some litters where those siblings tend to fight more with each other, right? Because they've been constantly together, and that dominant submission relationship is not really solidified, and we're not backing down,
right?
You know, so we escalate, and that also becomes a conditioned response as well.
Yeah,
the relationship is not solidified because why? They're too young.
Well, they
like the dominant subordinate relationship,
right? Maybe one tries to establish dominant signals toward the other one.
Right.
The other one does not want to accept those signals and be submissive. It challenges that signal. The original dog does not want to
back down,
go submissive. So it challenges that, and that's when the aggressive display can start. And if we have puppies that don't understand bite inhibition, which is the ability to, communicate with another dog, usually using their teeth, because that's one of the ways that they can touch and communicate. So they bite a hold of another dog, but don't cause any pain to that dog. That's called bite inhibition. It's how dogs can communicate in a healthy way, right? Well, let's say a dog has no bite inhibition. It has not learned bite inhibition for a variety of reasons, primarily going to be inadequate playtime with young puppies when it's younger, inadequate teaching from the mother, or a mother that did not have bite inhibition. These are generally why it would start. So the dogs don't have bite inhibition, the two that are challenging each other, and now we have major damage being caused between two dogs. And that littermate syndrome continues. It's a basic classical conditioning where the scenario happens over and over and over and escalates as time goes on. Until now I see you, now we have the response of the aggression, the aggressive response.
I believe aggression and violence play factors, right? So we're saying the debunking part is like we as humans don't need to put on this aggression and violence, right, to show dominance or to be a leader or whatever, right? But I think in this situation that we're talking about, aggression is a factor. You can't say that it doesn't exist or that it's not going to be beneficial for a dominant relationship. So you think of like this scenario where you have two similar sized, similar athletic ability dogs that are going at it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let's say one was the runt of the litter or whatever, and that the physical superior dog uses aggression and just overpowers that dog. You would probably, potentially, not always, but you could probably see that less capable dog submit and take that submissive role. You have two similar. They have the same athletic ability. They can fight the same strength. And now it's like, hey, maybe one wins this time, one wins. It's like a constant battle, constant competition, right? They don't have all the learned behaviors that they should have, right? And I think that can be a factor that this would develop. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So like aggression, I do believe it does play.
Aggression is simply a behavior set.
Right.
Aggression is not this crazy thing that we have to cause pain on somebody.
Right.
We have to induce extreme pain or anything like that. Aggression is just a behavior set. And I think that over time, as people have evolved, it's become, less used, probably less important to the human world. Because back in the woolly mammoth days, we have to get into aggressive mindset to take down this mammoth that's fighting us.
Right.
And made the most aggressive animal win, whether it's the humans or the woolly mammoth, But in the case of the dogs, aggression is simply a behavior set. I will display aggression as a dog to help get my point across, right? We're a nonverbal being. Dogs are nonverbal. They don't reason, right? So they throw signals. If I throw a signal to you that I'm dominant, you don't accept that signal. You throw me an aggressive signal. Now I'm saying, okay, you might be escalating, so I'm going to display aggression. If the displays of aggression, which for dogs could just be, snarling, hackles raised, these types of things, these don't work. So now we're actually engaging in physical aggression.
Right. We're in conflict.
Dog on dog, physical conflict.
Right.
To resolve the dispute of the dominance, right?
Yeah.
We didn't start out doing that.
Right.
It escalated slowly into that physical dispute.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's what we're saying is aggression is occurring. Aggression does occur. It's a behavior set, but it's not how you start out.
No.
Only if you escalate do you need to escalate into a potential aggressive behavior for that scenario.
Yeah.
Now with dogs and people, obviously we're different species. So we have to bridge that gap somehow, some way. That's going to be through training tools, right, in general. But when we're talking about dog on dog, they're not going straight to aggressive behaviors. They're escalating over time based on the scenario. If their behaviors are not being conditioned or modified with
Whereas
human intervention.
the outdated theory, was boom, aggression.
Right. The second that they challenge something, or the second that they...
Which could be a posture, right?
Could be a posture. Could be like, back then it's like, hey, I told them to sit. They're not sitting.
Right. Oh, they're flexing on me.
Right. They're flexing on me.
You got to jack that dog
they're
up.
jumping on me. Oh, they're flexing on me. So now I got to jack them up physically.
Right.
Which is not correct.
Right.
Right. And if you identify all these behaviors, there's a root to that behavior, like the jumping behavior. Usually is rooted in the regurgitation from the parent behavior, right? The parent regurgitates food for the puppy. The puppy's jumping up, licking the parent's lips, trying to signal regurgitate food for me. That never stops. So over time, it just becomes a grown dog jumping on humans.
Right.
Now the humans think, oh, they're challenging me.
Yeah.
Right. Now I have to, go crazy on this dog with corrections.
Yeah.
Because they're challenging my rank. Right. That's kind of like how all this started. Right. Moving on here. Cooperation and competition. In addition to their steep social hierarchies, dogs also show elevated levels of competition and have difficulty cooperating with conspecifics to solve tasks. Human intervention may have imposed levels of tolerance that the dogs left to themselves might not have developed. So again, we keep going back to that point that the dog probably wouldn't have developed tolerance of other dogs in certain situations without human intervention. Although it may run against expectations based on interaction with household pets, there is abundant evidence in the scientific literature that dog groups can be very hierarchical, and dogs may be highly competitive and reluctant to share resources. We already talked at the beginning of this podcast about, the pet dog not wanting to share its food. We talked about Chris not sharing his Skittles, the same thing.
I will get aggressive, by the way.
Yeah, we know. Relative to their ancestors, the wolf, dogs have less need to cooperate in their foraging and also cooperate less in raising young. Wolves have an essential need to cooperate with group members in order to kill the prey on which they feed. Furthermore, the outcome of a successful hunt is usually more than an individual wolf can consume. Consequently, wolves have many motivations to cooperate in foraging and sharing the results of their kill. These factors that motivate cooperation in wolves have limited availability for dogs who have less need either to cooperate in obtaining food or sharing the results of their foraging. So kind of like a summary of what we've already discussed, right? The steeper social hierarchy found in dogs and wolves is more surprising and even counterintuitive, but may also be related to the dog's foraging strategy where cooperation is seldom needed, often counterproductive, and may have been selected against. So his main argument here is, it seems like the basis of what he's kind of interpreting, reading, and putting together is that the food is the most important factor for dogs or wolves needs to cooperate. The wolf is a hunter. It needs a group to hunt prey. Depending on the prey, the size of the group depends on the prey that is being hunted. The dog does not need that because it has been adapted over time, evolved over time to not hunt like that. The dog is a scavenger. So that is the main difference in why wolves are, they're more of a group mentality. Dogs are less of a group mentality. Which, interesting. Okay. All right. Cooperation with humans. A variety of studies demonstrate that dogs readily attend and respond to human behavior. Pet dogs have been shown to beg from people who can see them in preference to people whose vision has been obscured. So we know dogs, they learn from their environment. They learn that if they do something specific, you'll give them food. That's going to happen, right?
Is that how your Skittles?
Yeah.
When you share them, someone's got to do something for you.
Yeah, 100%.
He's not sharing.
Kids pick up their room, wife does something.
What do you mean share them?
Chris has
that's
major
the problem
resource
here.
guarding with his Skittles.
major behavioral issue.
Yep. All right, summary on dog interactions with humans. Dogs' interactions with humans can be classified into two groups: the more emotional attachment-like patterns of behavior and the more cognitive or conditioned responses to specific human actions. Emotional responses, including fear reactions as measured in flight distance, which is the distance from a human that a dog is comfortable with, show differences between dogs and wolves, with dogs much less fearful and more likely to form attachments to people than are wolves. On the other hand, reactions to discrete human actions do not appear to show the same kinds of differences between dogs and wolves. So basically, what do you say here? It can be broken down into two things: dogs' interactions with humans. You got emotional attachment-like pattern of behavior, then you have a conditioned response, which is a trained behavior. Or maybe you didn't want to train a certain behavior, but it was conditioned anyway, because maybe you don't understand the principles and theory of learning that takes place with mammals, which is no fault of you, but there are things that are happening constantly, whether you want them to or not. Your environment is constantly affecting your dog's behavior. So, any thoughts on that? All right, quick conclusion here. Dogs' enormous success living in a human-dominated world rests on a set of adaptations to living in close proximity with us. Contrary to theories of canine domestication, which propose that dogs are less aggressive and more cooperative than wolves, several studies clearly show that dogs and their interaction with members of their own species are in fact more competitive and aggressive than wolves. A strict social hierarchy may even be more important to dogs, since their food is often in small portions that cannot be shared, unlike the larger carcasses on which wolves often feed. So he's saying a strict social hierarchy is more important for a dog than a wolf. Can you imagine? And this is based on research literature, right?
Literally. Literature.
In itself, dogs' more competitive and hierarchical interactions with their own species are not inconsistent with their foraging niche. Dogs do not share. The wolves need to cooperate to obtain or consume food. So, he goes into some other things. Let me get through this section real quick. We've talked about a lot of this. He does mention here, consequently, when people stroke dogs' heads, accept lips near the mouth, and make themselves taller than dogs, they are subconsciously expressing formal dominance over their dogs. People don't even know that's what's the dog's language, right? Combined with humans' total control over the resources that matter to dogs, such as food, freedom of movement, access to shelter, and even mating opportunities, this establishes dogs in a state of utter subordination to humans. But that's not always happening, right? The way that people are interacting with their own dogs. Some dogs can interpret things differently, right? So I wouldn't, if you're listening to this, I wouldn't just assume that your dog is subordinate to your pack structure, your boundaries and rules of your family. I wouldn't assume that, because that's not always the case. And some dogs take it to a different level than other dogs. All right. He continues on about the confused notions of dominance by certain dog trainers. What these trainers mean by dominance is closer to concepts of positive punishment and negative reinforcement. Indeed, the positive trainer who controls the animal behavior with contingent treats, strokes her head, and allows it to kiss her is expressing dominance over her dog to a greater degree than the misguided person who imagines dominance is conveyed by always walking through a doorway first. We've all heard that, like walking through the doorway first means that you're in charge, probably doesn't really matter. Probably walking through a door doesn't really
not
matter,
that big of a deal.
Honest. This conception suggests that several lines of research which may contribute to better lives for people and their dogs. For example, it is very striking that although there are now a few ethological studies of free-ranging dogs, there are almost no studies of how people and dogs live alongside each other in homes. If, as I propose, dogs' lives with people are structured around dominance relationships, dogs should react differently toward people who express different levels of dominance. Dogs would be predicted, for example, to respond differently toward people of different levels of stature, toward people with differing levels of control over resources that matter for dogs, and so forth. For example, we do not know how much time pet dogs spend in proximity to the humans in their household, what form the interaction takes place, nor how this depends on age, sex, breed of dog, or cultural background of that person. Consequently, the many observations that people feel affection for their dog and the apparent repercussion of that emotion by dogs has not been set in a context of objective measurement of behavioral interaction. So basically we have this background that we briefly went through today of the dog and the wolf and the differences. We have these studies that they've went through, but there are no studies of pet dogs. No studies of pet dogs and their social interactions in their home with their family, right? But this is what me and Chris are in the trenches every day with, pet dogs in their home with their family. Lots of experience with that. So, we take this information about the dog, the wolf, whatever, we apply it to what we're seeing, and, it is good to mimic that dog's genetic makeup, right? Have that structure in place, have that boundary in place, have rules in place, household rules, right? And certain dogs can do things that other dogs cannot. If you have a dog that's more sensitive to signals or a dog that has more dominant characteristics, there are certain things that you probably should not be doing with that dog that would be okay with a dog that has more submissive characteristics, right? So that's kind of what I'm pulling from here. But in the end, it seems like the alpha dominance theory is debunked, right? Not needed, not accurate. But we know that dominance does exist. We know that there are dominant submissive relationships with dogs and the beings that they live with, which is going to be humans, other dogs. We know that dogs are probably going to need some guidance and modification of behavior to live cooperatively with other dogs, how to handle situations with humans, all this kind of stuff, right?
Probably take more work. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think, in my opinion, where this theory came from is probably impatient trainers, right? Trying to push these limits. And then a little bit, that dog ain't going to do that to me. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to get these quick results.
Ego.
This dog is in a dominant state of mind, right? Do we have to go to, is that the best way, aggression and violence of action? No.
It could also be is back in the day, we didn't have a lot of information.
That's true. Right.
I mean, nowadays we have the internet.
Not the cast stones, right? Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Nowadays we have the internet.
Yeah.
So we have, you can go on the internet, you can Google something, you can find it in seconds.
Yeah.
100 years ago was a little bit less than 100 years ago, World War II was going on. No internet.
Right.
Dogs of war are out there helping soldiers, helping defeat the enemy.
Yeah.
How are those dogs trained?
Yeah.
However, people started training dogs before that.
Right.
Which is probably some type of old school dominance mentality, alpha theory. Oh, this dog, needs to do this or that. I'm going to apply some type of pressure on this dog to get it to do what I need it to do or whatever, right? Who knows? But over time, it just gets passed down. then we get a more advanced society rapidly.
Yeah.
Because from World War II till current day,
Lots of
there's been
changes.
a rapid change,
Yeah.
right, in technology and science and understanding things, research. So now we actually research things, right? We look into things more, and we modify what we do, right? Some people don't modify what they're doing, right? And that's these people that are living off of the alpha dominance theory, that we have to exert all of this pressure and force onto a dog, which we know from all the research is not the case. But we know there's dominance, we know there's submission, we know there's aggression, right? Behaviors, all these types of things. So,
Yeah.
you know, these people could have not known what was going on. They could have been passed down information that had worked for periods of time for
Sure.
certain situations, but didn't work for other situations,
Right.
right? But now, what we're saying right now, with all the information that we have these days, there's a much better way to work with your dog, modify your dog, teach it to operate in your social hierarchy, and teach it how to make good decisions. That's what we want a dog to do. Make good decisions, right? If you got another dog that's walking up to you while you're eating, that doesn't mean you got to attack that dog, right? Doesn't mean you have to resource guard that scenario. Doesn't mean you have to show a display of snarling or whatever to get away from that dog, right? You make good decisions, right? So, kind of in the weeds, kind of some thought processes.
Yeah.
You know, but who knows where we're going to go from here into the next 100 years? You know, even 10 years from now, with the advancement of artificial intelligence, who knows if dogs will be extinct and now we'll have robot dogs.
Well, we might all be extinct. This might be an irrelevant conversation.
You know, Skynet could be taken over. ChatGPT
Now we're
becomes
getting-
Skynet.
If we had robot dogs, then wouldn't like a programmer be
If
a
we had
trainer,
robot dogs,
technically?
we would actually be the ones that are being controlled
Mm.
because they're recording us. They could be.
That's what your cell phone's doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's already happened.
I mean, yeah, they
That's
just have to figure out how to put that into a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cell phone actually is.
You know, the robot dog is the Black Mirror episode.
Is
where
it really? I don't remember that.
You don't remember where
remember it.
they make robot dogs and they have them in the military and everything, and then
Well,
shit,
you know, the
shit hits
robot-
the wall, and then like the robot dogs just start hunting humans. And I think it may have been like AI takes over, and then the robot dogs have like guns on them and stuff, and they start hunting people.
Well, those are real now. They have robot dogs of
yeah.
war that have guns on them, and they walk around.
Oh, there's a
They
Black
patrol.
Mirror episode where it's like this one lady's trying to escape the robot dog, and like they're like she kills one, then there's another one, you know,
Right.
because they're just robots,
Right.
and so it's like a never-ending cycle.
Right.
It's crazy.
I mean, that could be what's happening. You never know.
Yeah, maybe.
Is technology helping us? Is it hurting us?
These are larger questions.
Is it going to be our
These are larger
demise?
questions.
It's hurting us.
Is it going to be our demise in
Yeah.
the future?
Oh, yeah.
We don't know.
Probably.
Do we need to dominate technology? You know, maybe the alpha theory applies to
How do you?
AI.
Can you? I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's dominating us.
Oh, well, the thing is, it's adapting. It's learning. It's becoming smarter.
Yeah.
You know, we rely upon it, so we become lazier. So you know what that means, how we talked about from woolly mammoth times until now, how humans have changed, dogs have changed. Well, from here to the next generation, how are people going to change? Because now we have AI that's basically helping us run our world at this point. Next 10 years, AI is running the world. Now humans are lazier. You know how the dog came from the wolf, came from a group hunting, then it went to living in people's homes, laying on the couch. Guess what we're going to be doing? We're going to be going from a society that's working to a society that's just sitting on the couch because AI is running everything.
I mean, that's the cycle of life, you know? So either you're gonna go that way, or you gotta step up and fight the AI in a whole different generation. The cycle comes back to the woolly mammoth days where you breed hard individuals.
I told you the woolly mammoth's coming
Well,
back. We're gonna go to the hot
Right.
age. Okay.
Here's the spinoff.
Rein
The
it
woolly
in,
mammoth
boys.
comes back.
Rein
Yep.
it in.
Now we have to go hunt woolly mammoth to survive because AI has controlled everything.
Yeah.
We have to live outside of cities now
Right.
because AI.
So you're going to have a
controlled
group of weak humans and
Right.
strong humans. The weak humans will die off. The strong
Right.
either will survive and win that war, or
Well, the strong humans have to live away from
They got to go back to their roots.
They have to live away from populated areas because AI is controlling that. So like you're talking about jungles, you're talking about deserts.
They got to become the wolf.
You're talking about wilderness, desolated areas, and we have to survive. And now the woolly mammoths are back.
Right.
So what do? We get together a group of, can you imagine getting a group of humans together? You got spears. You're chasing this woolly mammoth, right? This thing's like going crazy. It's got these big tusks. And you're like, we got to get this guy. So we got some people like trying to stab it, right, in the stomach, but it's so tall. You like can't get up there, you know? Then you got people like stabbing its ankles to like take its tendons out so it falls down.
But you got to swing on a like Legolas
Tarzan.
in Lord of the Rings. You got to swing and you got to cut the Achilles tendons, all four of them at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Takes them down, stab them in the brain, boom.
Right. So
So
then
I'll be fine.
Boom, we're eating.
Right,
I'll be
now
fine.
we're eating. But like Chris said earlier, that woolly mammoth, there's a baby one, you know, in the woods nearby. So we capture that one, we train it. Now we wage war on AI because we've now grown an army of woolly mammoths that we're charging the AI, what do you call it, like the database centers where it's hubbed at.
Yeah.
We're charging that with woolly mammoths to take down technology. We take down the AI. Now we're back to primal living.
And then it all starts. This could have already happened.
I mean, it's true.
We're getting crazy.
This could have already
We're
happened.
talking big brain.
Now we're
We're
coming
talking
full
about
circle.
theories. This is like we talked on this podcast about theories, right? Why do theories are theories accurate? Or are they not accurate? Like this is a theory that could happen. Is it accurate? We don't know.
Oh my God.
We
don't know
what
until it
happened to
happens.
Atlantis.
Here we go.
You know what
How
happened
advanced
to
were
This is
they?
a different podcast.
Right.
They
This
probably
is a
had
different
cell
podcast
phones.
episode.
They probably had technology.
Who
We
knows?
know they had technology.
Well, we know that they're real
Yeah.
because we have the evidence of their location. That's now desert. Like it used to be water. Now it's desert.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy shit, right?
Somehow humans survived, though.
Anyway, we'll stop that tangent.
Yeah.
You know, we're theorizing here. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things. But right now we're thinking about dogs.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back to dogs.
Now you all know what our lunch conversations sound like.
We're bringing it back to dogs. So the alpha dominance theory is debunked in our opinion, right? So we believe in having good structure, having good boundaries, having good conditioning, right? And basically taking that with your dog and conditioning your dog to where you want it to be at in your family organization, right? You guys got any other closing thoughts on that?
All good.
All right. Well, we already talked about in the discussion today, shit food.
Yeah.
We don't want to feed our dog shit food. What do we want to feed our dog? Good, optimal diet. What's that? That's raw food.
Woolly mammoth. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Raw.
woolly mammoth
Right,
for 100%.
Right.
100%. But we want that raw food for our dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what can you do? You can go to wefeedraw.com, sign up for a meal plan. They will deliver raw food to your door for your dog. We're talking about optimal. We're not talking about byproduct that humans don't want. You know how in the paper he's like, humans didn't want this food, gave it to the dog, right? Humans are going to eat as much food as they can. You know that. We've seen humans. We've seen how they operate, right? So anything the human's not eating,
Garbage.
is going to the dog, right? So now we're just shitting on our dog, basically. But we go to wefeedraw.com, sign up for a meal plan, use the discount code Canine Revolution. We're getting 25% off that meal plan delivered to our door when we need it, and we're giving our dog optimal diet.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I had someone over the other day. Erin, you know her. She's a trainer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We know her.
She was over. She saw Bane. She's like, is that Bane? Didn't recognize him. I was like, yeah, it's Bane. Why? He looks different. He looks like younger. That's what she said. He looks more muscular. He looks younger. His coat looks better. I said, you know he's on that raw diet.
Mm-hmm.
You know he's on that raw diet.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, good to go.
Yeah.
Also had someone else over the other day, Ben. You know Ben? He's right here.
He's right here.
What?
He's like, Georgia's looking good.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia put some weight on.
Yeah, she
You know,
is.
because she has a high metabolism.
She is.
And you feed her that kibble shit food, it doesn't help her. Guess what? Georgia's on the raw food, the We Feed Raw. So now she's up to a good weight. She's looking good. Now she's getting after it even more than she was. You know?
Yeah, she looks like a filled out. I mean, she definitely put some pounds on.
Oh, yeah.
She looks way healthier.
She's jacked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's jacked mentally and physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what else Bane and Georgia are on? Canine Super Supplements, which they're also a partner. Because what we're doing is we're filling the gaps in our diet. We're filling the gaps in our dog's diet. So you go to WeFeedRaw.com, you use Canine Revolution discount code, you get 25% off your optimal raw food. You fill in any gaps with that diet, potential gaps with the Canine Super Supplements. Discount code Canine Revolution gets you 15% off of that. You put those two together, boom, boom. Because
No
you
gaps.
know what? I mean, goat milk is good for your dog, right? We Feed Raw has the muscle meat, the bones ground up, the organs meat, but they don't have goat milk in We Feed Raw. But you know what has goat milk in it? The Canine Super Supplements has powdered goat milk in it. So you know that's good to go for your dog. And it's got powdered bone broth. You know that's good to go. And it's got other things. So, from my perspective, I would get the We Feed Raw dog food, and I would at least get the Canine Super Supplement joint support to at least fill those gaps in, right? But you could also get the Canine Super Supplement multivitamin and the Canine Super Supplement puppy formula, put all those in there. Now you got the complete package, in my opinion. So anyway, just my opinion.
Just one man's opinion.
For what it's worth.
But CanineSuperSupplements.com, WeFeedRaw.com, discount code Canine Revolution is going to save you some money on that, and you're going to be getting your dog on the optimal diet, which in the scientific systematic review paper we did today, we know we need that.
Yeah.
We know we need, right? All right, moving on, Jocko Fuel. Jocko Fuel is supporting us. So your dog, you want your dog operating at peak performance, optimally. Don't you want the same thing?
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't you want to be able to work with your dog, hang out with your dog like we talked about in the paper today, sleep with your dog optimally? That means you got to have your nutritional gaps filled in your diet, which Jocko Fuel's here to help. They got the milk protein, which we know at a minimum, the human needs 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. So, Ben, how much do you weigh?
165.
So if you weigh 165,
somewhere around there,
you need at least 165 grams of protein per day.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Right?
I got Jocko.
Split into 4 meals.
I got Jocko milk.
And maybe you don't want to eat the Skittles every day, but you got that little sweet tooth. You know what I'm saying? I need something sweet.
Malt cookie.
Need something
It's
delicious.
a sweet treat
Malt
bug.
cookie.
You got the sweet treat bug.
Just the straight up milk. You get you some banana, maybe chocolate.
Well, you got the mint chocolate chip milk.
Mint
it's
chocolate
literally like ice cream.
You got the peanut butter. Is it peanut butter? It's like a Reese's.
They got the Reese's flavor.
I mean that can hold you back if you're trying to I need to lay off the Skittles a little bit. You get a little bit of that in there. You're like, all right, you know what? I'm good. I don't need the Skittles.
Well, Erin said yesterday, the day before, she was getting that Ninja ice cream machine, and she said we were going to have a get together at her place, and we're bringing the milk to make milk ice cream. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a thing.
Yeah,
That's a legit thing.
Holy shit.
dude. I'm looking forward to that.
That'll get you amped.
Holy shit. I didn't know that was going down.
It's happening.
Holy
It's
shit.
happening.
Whether she wants to or not.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
she mentioned it to us, and now
We
it's a
made it
thing.
Oh, wait.
We
I'm
made
starting
it
to
a
connect the dots
Yeah,
here.
yeah, we made it a
So
thing.
she said she had the maker, and then you guys.
Right. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
We invited ourselves.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
We established
Y'all
that there's
handled the
gonna be a
rest.
get-together.
Y'all made the rest happen. Yeah.
Jocko Fuel's got your milk protein. Jocko Fuel's got your greens. You need that micronutrient support, right? But here's one thing that is often overlooked that Jocko Fuel has. White tea.
Oh yeah,
White tea.
yeah. Don't forget about
Who's
that.
a tea guy?
Yeah,
Me. Ben? Tea guy?
Yeah, I drink tea.
White tea.
I am now.
Chris?
I once I tried the white tea, I was like, this
You got the box.
is banging.
You got
Yeah,
the box.
good. The box lasts you a lifetime.
You good to go.
Never runs out.
I usually double bag my tea.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a
Double
good-
the dosage.
Yeah, we know how you operate.
But literally, a couple weeks ago, one of my kids, they go to school, right? They went to school. They come back. They're not feeling so good. I'm like, here we go. I was like, here we go. Some shit's going to come through the house. Some kind of sickness. Guess what? You know what I'm doing? Jocko Cold War, getting that immune support. Jocko White Tea every night. Getting that additional support.
Yep.
You know what? I never got hit. I'm good to go. Also, I went on a cruise recently, yes. Went on vacation.
We know.
Went on a Disney cruise.
The one a year he does.
You know what happens on cruises, right? You've all heard the stories.
Food?
You eat a lot.
Well, you eat a lot, but sickness.
Oh yeah.
You always you hear those
Diarrhea.
stories.
Yeah.
Crazy sicknesses on the cruise ship. So what did I do? I packed my Cold War. I'm taking Cold War twice a day on the cruise ship. I'm boosting
Double
my
dose.
immunity. I'm boosting my immunity when most people's immunity is hitting the tanker on that shit.
He was walking around letting people cough
So
on
I'm
him.
good to go. And Lauren's like in this. My wife is in this Facebook group with all these people that were on the ship. They have a Facebook
What
group.
the hell?
Yeah, I'm not on the.
Are you serious? They had a group for it.
But everyone's
That's a
like,
normal thing.
everyone's
Is
like,
it?
I got sick, I got this, I got that.
No
know,
factor.
I'm freaking good to go.
No factor.
I'm freaking good to go because I had that Cold War on.
They should
hand.
partner with cruise lines.
They should.
That'd be a
Jocko.
good idea.
And you know how the attendant will like make your towels on your bed at a cruise ship? Well, he made the towel with an alligator, and the alligator had my Cold War. I was like,
Nice.
oh, we're on the Cold War.
Nice.
He put it inside of it?
Yeah, I got
Really?
it. I'll show it to you. Anyway, Jocko Fuel. Go to JockoFuel.com. Use discount code Canine Revolution for 10% off. That way you can fill your nutritional gaps. Like we said, they got protein, they got greens, they got the immunity support, they got the white tea, they got the creatine, they got everything you need. They're expanding the line.
Well, you know what I did on my cruise?
Huh.
They let you bring cans. You can bring a 12-pack, right?
You got the
Most
goes.
people get soda. I got some goes.
Oh yeah.
I had 24. One for Kelly, one for me. 24 goes. You get a little
24
tired.
goes for a week.
Yeah. Hey, you got to cruise with
Hey,
kids.
he's juiced up.
You know what I'm saying? You got to get up. You got to work out. You got to go all day. You got to eat all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
He's going.
It's a
He's
busy
on
day.
the
Well, what
go.
happens is
He's
you
on the
eat all
go.
that food. Now you're tired.
Right. So
Chug
you
a go. Now
boom.
you're at the pool.
Now, hey, okay, we got to go play on the water slides.
Right.
We're good to go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Or you
Keep
gotta
up
go
with the
on that
kids. No
excursion.
factor. Go on that excursion.
Take a scoop
that
of
Yeah.
pre-workout.
Well, that's before you
Drop
hit
it
the
in
gym.
your shit.
Yeah.
Take the pre-workout, hit the gym. Now you're good. Good
Yeah.
to go. I mean, they got it all. Canine
They got it.
Revolution's your discount code. Go get some. All right. Canine Revolution Dog Training. That's our dog training organization. We can help you with whatever you need, no matter where you're at. You can contact us. Phone number is 843-213-2676. Email is info@caninerevolutiondogtraining.com. We'd love to help you out. Just contact us, and we'll work it out with you, okay? We've also got Canine Revolution Apparel, which you can go to that on Amazon, Canine Revolution Apparel. Get you some shirts. Get you a logo shirt. Get you a chicken shirt. Get you a Guinea shirt. A quick story. The other day, I took the Polaris, which is like a golf cart, down to the shop to get maintenance done on it, right? I'm wearing my Guinea shirt.
Naturally.
Guess what? The guy at the shop, I love Guineas. I love that shirt. Where do I get that shirt from? He's going crazy. And he starts telling me all these stories about all these Guineas he had, right? So I'm like, oh, we made a connection. We connected because the Guinea shirt, Canine Revolution Apparel, Guinea fowl shirt. See
There's
what
not
I'm
many
saying?
Guinea shirts out there.
That's what
If
I'm
any.
saying.
If any.
There's
Yeah,
not a
there's
lot.
not- yeah,
There's not a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a rare breed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legit too.
Yeah.
And we know that Guineas, we talked about it today, pack animals. Pack animals.
Lovers for life.
Lovers for life.
They'll love you for life.
Maybe
All right,
we
so
need
check that out.
Maybe we need a Guinea for Valentine's Day next year. We'll do a Guinea graphic. I'll make a Guinea graphic for you.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good one. Throw that into the dog stack.
Two Guineas in the
Oh,
the
yeah.
heart. You know?
Oh,
Two
yeah.
Guineas looking at each
Now
other.
we're talking. Now we're talking. Lovers for life. Good one.
That's a good idea.
All right. Don't forget, we've got our YouTube channels, Pack Talk Podcast and Canine Revolution Dog Training. We're Canine Revolution Dog Training on every social media platform. We do read the comments on Instagram and YouTube. So if you guys want to leave a comment, let us know what you need. Just remember, instead of trying to do this alpha dominance theory to your dog, it's outdated, it's debunked. Focus on developing a solid relationship with them. Use vital resources to your advantage and do something that you and your dog enjoy together. You'll see good results. You'll see good times. Good times. Until we get to the woolly mammoth times. Now you're using your dog.
Oh, hey, that's good
Yeah,
times,
you're going
boys.
to
I'm
incorporate
ready.
your dog
Right,
into
now
the
you're using
hunt.
your dog to help you hunt that woolly mammoth
That's good times.
because you've got the proper hierarchy in place because you're not using debunked information.
Right.
You know, you're using this alpha dominance theory. Your dog ain't working with you.
No.
Your
no.
dog's like,
Woolly,
F you.
woolly mammoth time comes, they're
Yeah,
out.
they're
Peace out,
They're,
dude.
they're rolling out.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to go get their own shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but when you need them, you use the proper training. Now they're there. They're involved. They're helping you. Good to go. And until next time, this is Pack Talk Podcast. Out.